Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. As you guys may know, I have just returned from 3 amazing weeks in Kenya running our Amboseli workshops. Now our Amboseli workshop is something we run every year and we aim it at 2 iconic things in Kenya. One is the big tuskers that are found in this area, and 2 is Mount Kilimanjaro. Now we were very lucky on this safari, as Mount Kilimanjaro is not always guaranteed. Being a mountain, it often creates its own weather, so sometimes we are sitting in the best blue sky you can imagine, yet the mountain is hiding behind clouds. Luckily for both workshop groups, we had fantastic views of the mountain this time round, and as well as the big tuskers. Now on our Amboseli trip, we often try and specifically look for a big tusker called Craig. He happens to just be one of the most gentle giants on the planet. Often he gets within feet of the vehicle and hardly even looks at you. I've never even heard a story of him being aggressive towards any tourists. Now besides iconic elephant and mountain shots, Amboseli also has so much to offer. Amboseli is now home to lesser and greater flamingos, which are absolutely stunning. With the backdrop of Mount Kilimanjaro, the pinks against the blue sky are absolutely beautiful. Now we made sure on both workshops we got out early a couple of days to try and get to the lake where the flamingos are before the sun rose. This gives us the best light to shoot the flamingos in, and also gives us a chance to shoot them flying in front of the sun. We had an absolute blast expanding our portfolios with these amazing birds. Simply by sitting here for about 15 minutes with the sun rising gives so many different images, it really is a fantastic place to spend the morning. Luckily for us, just a few hundred meters down the road from the flamingos, often there was a huge herd of zebras and wildebeest. This also gave us great opportunities to try backlighting and side lighting as the sun was still very low after rising. Now zebras are another one of Africa's iconic species which you can photograph really nicely in Amboseli. Its huge wide open spaces, its slow rolling hills and its very short grass make for beautiful opportunities to get nice landscape type images of the zebra herds, as well as beautiful close-ups of individuals. We spend many hours each day photographing zebras, trying to look for something different in each sighting. Now typically Amboseli is not a place I would recommend for great predator sightings. The fact that you cannot off-road or track the animals makes it very difficult to find the big cats and take nice pictures of them. In saying that, we got very lucky this trip, seeing lions and even cheetah as well. One of the difficulties in Amboseli with its big cats is the fact that you cannot off-road and get close to them. Therefore, again, you're forced to take more landscape style images. This isn't a problem, however, because sometimes the mountain is out, sometimes they're in front of palm trees, and other times they're chasing wildebeest in giant open areas. We got very lucky on this trip, seeing about 5 failed attempts at hunting. All in all, we saw 4 large male lions, as well as 4 different prides, the biggest being 24 individuals. Now one of the main highlights of this trip is always the amazing elephants of Amboseli. On average, the elephants here have the biggest tusks anywhere in Africa, with both males and females being considered tuskers. Now one of the images that we're always looking for when we come to Amboseli, when the mountain is out, is the iconic elephants in front of Kilimanjaro. We spent many mornings and many afternoons trying to find small family groups or individual elephants to line up with the mountain to get these dream shots. Luckily for us, both groups of safari goers got this opportunity. Now we also spent a lot of time in and around the swamps of Amboseli. This is where all the elephants come to feed during the day. Your typical day starts with the elephants exiting the forests outside the reserve, crossing into the main reserve and into the swamp area. This gives you great opportunities to photograph the elephants early with the mountain and then get different shots of the family groups together in the swamps later on. For some reason this trip there also seemed to be a lot of bull elephants in full must. We saw at least 6 or 7 really big bulls in this condition. Because of this, we were also treated on a few occasions to elephants fighting. Now, although we didn't see any real serious fights, the pushing and play fighting that we did see made for really nice pictures. A couple of times these young bulls were pushing each other off the ground, as well as other times where we just saw males running for their lives. During the later morning and the early afternoons, the elephant groups that are in the swamps seem to be in this sort of resting period. This also made for really nice photos, especially on the days where we had some lovely clouds roll in. Now typically I hate blue skies on safari, but when you're wanting to photograph Mount Kilimanjaro, you kind of need them. However, the days where the moody clouds rolled in, we really appreciated. 2 of my favorite images from the safari were taken on the days where we saw no mountains. Now I mentioned earlier, one of the highlights of the safari is looking for Super Tusker Craig. On our first workshop group, we actually managed to see him 2 times and he was outside the national park. This is better for us as photographers, as being outside the national park, you can actually off-road and get closer to him. When he's inside the national park, he doesn't like lots of vehicles and he tends to hang around in areas where you actually don't get very close at all. Some would say he's a little bit smarter than the average elephant. The first morning we saw him was beautifully overcast, which was lucky because we managed to find him quite late in the morning drive. If we had had a blue sky, the shots would have been very difficult to take and to edit later on. Now I also mentioned Craig is a huge, super gentle giant. We managed to get very close to him a few times as he walked straight past the vehicle, meaning that we could lean out with our monopods and our wide angle lenses to get these extraordinary low angle shots of his impressive tusks as he came past us. We also went back and shot a few long lens shots of him, as well as trying to shoot some animal in the environment shots as well. The second time we saw Craig with the first group, the light wasn't so nice. There was no clouds in the sky and again it was a little bit later in the morning. Where we did get lucky, however, was that the mountain was out, so we did manage to line up a couple of shots with him in front of the mountain. Now every single time you see Craig, you are on a mega high, and our first safari group was no different. After both sightings with this awesome elephant, we were so happy to go back to the lodge and see what images we got. Now the second workshop group only saw Craig once, but we had an awesome sighting with him nonetheless. We went to him straight in the morning and also managed to photograph him in front of Mount Kilimanjaro. Now I said earlier that seeing Mount Kilimanjaro is not always a guarantee, and these images show it quite well. This first image is taken at 7:58. The next image is taken at 8:14, and you can see by this time the mountain has already disappeared in complete cloud. This for us, however, was actually a blessing as we got to spend a lot longer with Craig and get different images which were really nice. Again, getting out low with our cameras meant that we could get really beautiful low angle shots of this huge bull as he came through the bushes towards us. Interestingly, our 2 workshop groups, which were a week apart, had very different safaris once again. The sightings were very similar, but the weather was quite different. The first group had really nice overcast cloudy skies which made for really dramatic images, whereas the second group had more blue sky than I've ever seen at Amboseli before. This meant we got less beautiful images late and early in the afternoon drives. However, we got to see the mountain a lot more. As you can see by these 2 images, the mountain we saw with the first group had lots of snow on it, versus 1 week later it had hardly any snow at all. Another 2 highlights was going out towards Amboseli's dry lake. Now typically this lake is not supposed to be dry, however every time I have been there, there's been very little or no water. Now this lake is absolutely huge. It takes about 20 minutes to drive straight across it. Now being on the lake can give some amazing images if you happen to get lucky with some animals crossing it. Now unfortunately we didn't get any animals crossing while we were there, but we did manage to get out there a couple of times and play with some ideas with the dry lake bed as well as some flamingo feathers and spider webs. One of our funniest sightings of the trip was a lesser kudu family very close to the gate. Now we were sitting there photographing it because our guests knew how special this antelope was, but all the other vehicles came in and they just assumed we were sitting with lions. It was quite funny watching all the cars pile up, eventually just to figure out we were shooting an antelope, be very disappointed and then leave. After the first safari, I traveled with 2 of the clients to Shompoli Wilderness to spend time in their hide and as well as photographing flamingos from the helicopter. Our helicopter transfer from Amboseli itself was a beautiful scenic one and provided lots of aerial images of these amazing birds over Lake Magadi. Now Lake Magadi is a beautiful scenic lake filled with flamingos and often has multiple different colors caused by algal blooms in the water. When the wind picks up, the algae swirls around and you get these amazing patterns on the surface, as well as flamingos flying over. This experience is an absolute awesome one, and if you're ever in the area, I highly recommend taking a helicopter flip over this incredible lake. Myself and the 2 clients spent 3 awesome nights in this amazing, beautiful camp. The camp itself is along a river in the beautiful wooded area. I've never seen so many grey-headed and pygmy kingfishers in my life. Now the purpose of going to Shompoli is arguably to sit in their photographic hide. The backdrop is absolutely stunning with Mount Shompoli right there in the background. We were visited every day by a number of different birds as well as giraffe, zebra, and a really cool inquisitive bat-eared fox. Luckily for us, while we were there, we managed to get the first known images of the bat-eared fox drinking in this location. We were also visited by hyena and white-tailed mongoose almost every night. Now one of the clients who went to Shompoli really wanted to get some images of white-fronted bee-eater on his trip to Kenya. And boy did Shompoli deliver. Not only were they around the camp, but they were also at the hide every single session. We managed to get some really nice front, side and backlit images of these awesome birds. Now we were unfortunate that we had got to this hide about a month or so after they had had huge floods in Kenya. Now everyone knows that hides after heavy rains are not that productive as the animals have many options to drink out in the bush. Sadly for us, the potential sightings were a little bit lower than normal, but they were already a lot better than the camp manager Johan had expected. One of our near misses was a caracal that was coming in to drink on the first night before it got spooked and ran away before we got any shots. This would have been a trip highlight for me because I still don't have a nice photo of a caracal. All in all, this trip to Kenya was an absolutely fantastic one. I came home with over 40,000 images and I still haven't been through all of the ones that I took. We managed to get incredibly lucky with the most beautiful scenic shots at Amboseli, which is exactly why we go, as well as photographing a new and exciting destination for myself, which is Shompoli. Now next year we have already booked our dates for Amboseli, so if you are keen to come and try and get these amazing images with us, please look on our website for the details. Now if you would like to do a private safari combining Amboseli and Shompoli, please also get in touch as it's something we can do. For now, thank you very much for watching and we'll see you on the next one.